Hey all, I thought I'd try and do a quick video on this Robo-Tank build that I'm doing and what it does and where I am with it so far. So this is the Robo-Tank controller board. Inside its enclosure, 3D printed enclosure. Inside here is the Raspberry Pi with the Reef-pi software loaded on the Raspberry Pi on the SD card. This whole thing is run on 12 volts. It comes in here on either of these two ports. Any decent size 12 volt supply, 5 amps or so should run it. This then will run your 220 volt equipment via these two DB9 ports here. These send the signals out to the 6 port controller power bar here via the DB9, and you plug 220 volts in the other side. The Robo-Tank can then turn those outlets off and on, so any equipment that is connected to those outlets will turn on and off as you schedule it. Unfortunately, these universal outlets don't take our big 15 amp sockets here, but these useless rubbish 2-pin plugs fit really nice and securely into this into these universal outlets, so that's pretty cool. Quite like that. So then that's the 220 volt side handled. Here we have the 12 volt ports. There are 7 12 volt DC ports that you can plug equipment into. 3 of these items here, the first 3 ports here, have built-in backup float switches. So you could have your auto top-up pump running and have a float switch in your RO reservoir. So when your RO runs low, your auto top-up pump won't run. So these 3 sensors here are as backup to these 3 DC ports. These are just straight 12 volt DC that you could use to run any pumps or any other 12 volt equipment. Up here you have pulse width modulate control, PWM controlled ports. There's 8 of them, and you can choose whether you want 0 to 5 volt, 0 to 10 volt, analog, PWM, whatever you can. You can choose that by adjusting these dip switches here. This is cool if you want to run do-it-yourself lighting control modules, LEDs. You can also use these to run some of your controllable wave makers. They've got the facility to run on PWM, 0 to 10 volt PWM, and various other control equipment. Doses, variable speed DC doses, they can run off these as well, and you can control the speed of your doses. That's pretty cool. The feeder port up here is can take a standard EHAM feeder, auto feeder, pellet feeder, and run it. You could also use this to run something else that runs on your 3.3 volts. That would work as well. Over here you have your sensors. These would be your floats or your optical sensors or your non-contact water sensors that you typically use on an auto top-up. These jumpers here, you would put on jumpers to tell the controller whether it is a normal float switch or it's a optical sensor like this one, or one of these non-contact ones that sit on the outside of the glass like this one here. That can use any of them, and you can create 3 auto top-ups directly off the board there with that. These blocks over here are for your temperature control, so your temperature probes. You could plug 3 of them directly in here, and you can have 3 temperature probes, so 1 in the room, 1 outside, 1 in the tank, maybe one on your chiller like I have, anything you like. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Yeah, let me know if you have any questions.